Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our second event today and of our Gluten-Free Living Week. And today we are very lucky to have Debbie with us from Celiac Dublin. And Debbie's going to be giving us all of her top tips that she has gleaned since she was two years of age. She was diagnosed and is absolutely passionate about celiacs. She's taken a half day on her working day today, so she's been really dedicated and very much sees what she does, which is kind of blogging on social media on both Instagram and Facebook as a hobby. And she's brilliant, giving top tips and everything. So everybody, when we finish this, go over, if you're sort of social media, just follow her as well, because you'll get some great tips from her. So before I hand over to Debbie, I just wanted to say again a thank you to our title sponsor, SuperValu, without whom we wouldn't be here today. So thank you very much. And also today we've got 6 prizes to give away. We've got a lovely Jane Russell hamper who does all things sausage and delicious products. We have a bee-free hamper. We have Jeffro, a green saffron hamper, and a Promise gluten-free hamper as well. And we're also giving away a Celiac Society membership for a year as well. But my colleague Jennifer will be picking those winners random throughout the seminar. So don't worry, we'll announce those winners through it. So over to you, Debbie. How have you been? A bit of a changed world in the past 6 months.
Yes, hiya Andrea. Hi everyone. Yeah, no, I've been really good. I suppose in a weird way I'm getting used to all of this like COVID stuff now. It's very strange doing the Gluten-Free Living show online. Yes. But I think it's great though. A week long, it's brilliant, like, but you do miss that that actual show there. Now I love that event, so hopefully we'll have that back. Hopefully next year it'll be back again. But now I'm absolutely really enjoying this week-long event.
Brilliant. So you were with us last year in the Green Isle Hotel.
Yes, and I spent a fortune. But
did you?
I was very happy, left with bags loads of stuff, so yeah, it was great.
Yeah. It's always a fantastic day, I think, for celiacs, and it's just sort of knowing that it's the kind of go-to place to get advice. And also then we've got not only celiacs, but those who are living a gluten-free life, either for medical reasons or for just general health benefits. Maybe they feel better on it. So, you know, it's important that we just kind of encapsulate, you know, there is lots of us out there, and I'm one of those as well. I'm not celiac, but I just struggle with gluten, and I don't eat, you know, I have 2 celiacs in my house, and but I choose to follow. It's just easier for me.
Yeah, whatever. I've always been of the opinion, whatever makes you feel better, you know your body best and you know your gut well, so you just listen to your body. If something doesn't agree with you, it doesn't agree with you. Whether you have a celiac diagnosis or not, it doesn't matter. Like if gluten's not agreeing with you, then it doesn't agree with you. Simple as that.
Absolutely. So we're going to run like all the sessions, really, a really interactive session. I think that's going to work for you, Debbie. And any questions that people have from your experience, you know, because we're you know, you're living it day to day. So you're a true celiac warrior. And are you living, you know, have you anyone else in the house that you have to cater for, or is it just yourself? Or
it's funny, it's just me celiac at the minute in the house, but there's just been members of the family now that have been kind of showing symptoms recently.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so it looks like there'll be 2 members going for testing
wow,
in the next little while. So yeah, could end up being a gluten-free household.
And how did they spot you initially? I know you were young when you were diagnosed.
Yeah. So it's that age when you're a baby and you're supposed to be thriving. So you're supposed to be gaining weight, whereas I was losing weight.
Okay.
So, and it was just to do with, it was mainly weight. They brought me in. It was just by chance. It was the 2-year checkup.
Yeah.
And they just said, no, our weight isn't. But it actually took then a while, because it wasn't, I mean, that's 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't something that was thought of straight away. So it took a while. They were thinking it was other things, but then eventually they got the diagnosis. But yeah, it was mainly that I was supposed to be, and it was the bloated belly as well. So it was a bloated belly, and I just wasn't gaining weight. But energy-wise and stuff, my mum always said it, energy-wise, I was hyper as anything, running around. So there wasn't that concern there, but it was just a couple of small symptoms then that they...
And was there any in the family, any other, or nobody?
No, nobody at all. But as I said, I think now, just with a lot more kind of recognition is being spoken about a lot more now, I think people are picking up on symptoms. And I think even going to the doctors and stuff now, they're, you know, it's in conversation a lot more, and just through social media as well, people are asking questions. So I think more people are going to just be diagnosed, you know.
And when did you start Celiac Dublin?
I'm going to say about 2015, 2016, I think.
Okay.
In and around that time. And it was mainly, the whole point of me starting it, I was never going to be like, oh, I'm going to, you know, put content up. That wasn't me idea. My whole idea was that I didn't actually know anyone else who was a celiac. And I wanted to have those conversations and be able to see other people and what they do. And I just kind of found it handy if you were looking for tips and places to eat out. So it was the main reason why I started it. And then it just kind of took off itself. And some days it's, you know, some weeks it's content based and you might not hear from a lot of people. Other weeks you're hearing from loads of people. It just depends, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I believe you had some slides or something. You had some.
I do. I have a couple, because I'm always a believer in, if you're going to be given any sort of talk, that the person shouldn't have to be maybe taking notes if they don't want it, to give them something tangible that if they wanted to take off with themselves, or if they're on listening for somebody else, it means they can email it onto people. So I'm going to share the screen.
Okay.
Let me know if you can see it.
Magic of technology.
I think you have to enable me to share there, Andrea.
Hold on. Change role of attendee. No, I don't think so. But not to worry. Worst case, Debbie, we can put these the things that you're going to talk through up for people to have. We can share it afterwards.
Yeah, perfect.
So I'm sure, you know, if you just talk through it, I'm not sure how that magic happens. Share screen. I'm not sure how that magic happens, but worst case, we'll definitely be able to share it out with everybody.
Yeah, perfect.
So don't worry about that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, yeah, I was just going to go through, so a bit of an intro about Celiac Dublin, which we spoke about, but yeah, it was basically, I just wanted a place that I could go, where I could chat to other people that were celiacs, other people that were following a gluten-free diet, and just having that conversation. So that's how Celiac Dublin came about. In terms of the top kind of tips that I would always go to, so if somebody messages me, I always say straight away, look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, I cannot give medical advice, but I can point you in the direction of where you can get that advice. One of them is always the Celiac Society of Ireland. I always recommend it. But also I'm happy to give tips of stuff that I've learned over the years, and if someone else found them helpful, great. But yeah, so I'm just going to chat a little bit about my top tips. I'm going to mention the gluten-free food list as well from the Celiac Society.
I have some exciting news to share with you on that when we get to that. So
okay, looking forward to it. I'm going to just briefly talk about eating out and going abroad, because I know we can't do that at the minute, and I don't want to upset anybody, but I'll just like do a little brief overview of that. If anyone wants any other tips, so they can contact me, no problem, afterwards. So yeah, so I just want to welcome anybody who's new to this lifestyle. I know it can be really tough, and sometimes it can feel maybe a little bit isolating, but I just try to think of it as you're now letting yourself heal. This is your recovery time, and you're just going to feel so much better now going forward. But just a few little things that I would say for you to maybe introduce into your life. If you're waiting on a diagnosis, if you're waiting on tests, if you're waiting on an appointment, if you've already had an appointment on a diagnosis, food diary. I think there's nothing more important than getting a little copybook, a notebook, and writing down what you've had to eat in the morning, what you've had in the afternoon, your dinner, and keeping that. And what you might find is, if you do get an appointment through the hospital for a dietitian, one of the first things a dietitian might say to you is, okay, I'm going to ask you to keep a food log. But if you've already got that done, it's really useful to be able to show them. So you don't have to keep them for 3 weeks. You can say, hang on, no, I actually have one.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing. And they might say, oh, you're still feeling unwell. Okay, let's have a quick look at this. And they might find something that you just didn't realize wasn't okay to eat. So absolutely a food diary. My next thing is always to join the Celiac Society of Ireland. Because, I mean, I think I was a member from probably the age of maybe 4.
That's fantastic, Debbie.
You know, so I've seen the changes, but I can honestly say, as much as I'm confident in with following a gluten-free diet, I use my membership so much. Like I would be absolutely lost without it. And it's like 40 quid, 45 quid for a whole year. And the amount of resources that you can access online, the website, you can, you know, there's Q&A sections on there, frequently asked questions. There's, you know, top tips, there's reading material, there's like an online assessment you can do to see, you know, if you're having any symptoms. There's just so much on that website that I would just absolutely recommend that you just become a member.
Yeah, got Sarah Keogh. You try your screen share now, Debbie. I'm hoping
Grant, yeah,
I've enabled you to do that now. But also, not only that, we've got Sarah Keogh, our dietitian, doing dietetic clinics.
Yeah.
And in COVID at the moment, we're able to manage those securely with GDPR, everything now through Zoom. So, and we've got our live diet, you know, we've got our speed clinic happening tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of these members of benefit, and as you say, for €35, it's absolutely fantastic. And you know, we're a small team, but we do our very best, and we, you know, get a more dedicated team of people.
Yeah, no, and I've seen people over the years, and anyone that I've ever, you know, come into contact with in the society, I've always just received the best information and tips. And I remember actually going down as a young kid with me mom, because I suppose like that's what getting diagnosed so young, like quite a lot of the first part of my journey of being a celiac is my mom's journey, like because she was the one that would have been paying the membership, she was the one receiving, you know, any kind of updates to the food list, like, so it was her. And I remember being brought down as a child down to the Carmichael Centre, and it was the first time that I'd been around people that like knew what it was, and I remember just the level of excitement. So even just that sense of community that you get,
absolutely,
you just can't beat it, like, you know. But can people see that screen?
Yeah. Now we're in. Perfect. That's brilliant. Well done, Debbie.
Okay.
We got there in the end.
Yes. Woo. But yeah, so I just absolutely I would just recommend joining the Celiac Society of Ireland, like big time. And then just things like your practical tips, utensils, chopping boards. If you're in a position where you can go out and you can buy new stuff for peace of mind, do it. But don't think that everything has to be brand new and you need to go out and spend a fortune either. That's not the case. But in some cases where you've had maybe wooden chopping boards or wooden utensils, the, you know, the gluten and stuff can soak into those materials. So I would recommend getting new, either wooden ones for yourself or just plastic ones, stuff that can be put into a dishwasher and cleaned. In terms of utensils, so if you are in a house that has gluten eaters in it, like things like, just if you're making pasta for yourself and you're making pasta for someone else in the family, don't use the same spoon to give one pasta a store and then, you know, do the same again. Have separate utensils, and just create a space for yourself if you can, whether that be a whole press to yourself, whether that be one shelf in a press. I would recommend having your stuff on the top shelf in a press if you can just have a shelf, and that's again to avoid cross-contamination. No crumbs are going to fall down on top onto your food. The same with a fridge, and especially I think it can be difficult for people renting. You know, there could be quite a lot of people in a house or apartment and they're sharing a kitchen. It can be a small space. So for things like, even if you do have a couple of things that's yours in a fridge, I would recommend getting like a Tupperware. So like a lunchbox, and having the stuff inside, because just by accident, someone might just open the fridge, grab a butter thinking it's their butter. It's not their butter, and nobody is none the wiser. If you have that stuff in a lunchbox, it just is that extra barrier that can really help you, you know?
Totally. In our house now, we've even got different butter dishes so that we all know that's the gluten-y butter. It's because it's the only thing I do have in my house is sort of gluten-free bread and normal bread, but I have the two toasters and two very different butter dishes. So, you know, it is important that you definitely section things off, exactly as you're saying.
Yeah. And then I would just say join groups. The amount of groups out there, whether that be on like social media, like whether it be Instagram, like following people, or whether it be following brands, like a lot of the big brands would have their Facebook pages, their Instagram pages, their Twitter pages, and they have so much kind of useful information, from recipes to tips. But also there's private groups you can join. So like on Facebook and stuff, and it could be ones for parents specifically that have kids who need to follow a gluten-free diet, or it could be a gluten-free, dairy-free page that somebody created for people to share products and thoughts. I just think it's a great place to get information as well. I would also say though, don't take everything you hear as the truth, because you need to be careful. Some of the groups, you could have people from Ireland, you could have people from the UK, and things change depending on where something is produced. So, you know yourself, if there's a bar of chocolate produced in the UK in a company and it's gluten-free, the same bar could be produced in a company, in a factory in Ireland, but there's gluten containing ingredients in that factory. So if someone shares something on one of these pages and says, yeah, this is gluten-free, you need to find out and be sure where their area is. So I'd always just double check to say, you know, I'm in Ireland, is this the case here? And then again, I'd always refer back to the gluten-free food lists from the Celiac Society, and you're just double checking things then. But yeah, join as many groups as you can, because the amount of stuff I learn on a daily basis is like unbelievable. Or just little tips, little things you just wouldn't have, you know, thought of. And just ask questions.
So like, you're still learning, Debbie, even
still learning. And that's one thing I'll say. There's nobody, I don't care what anyone says, there's not a perfect celiac out there. There's nobody who knows absolutely everything, because things change also all the time. And just be open to learning, and then be open to sharing anything you learn with others too. And that's, the more people that are informed, you know, the more we can raise awareness for us all. So just keep asking questions, gather information, and then share that information as much as you can. But not like, don't be hard on yourself. Mistakes happen, accidents. I still make mistakes. Do you know, like, I'm celiac 20 years and I'll still make a mistake. Like, don't get annoyed at yourself. This is something that we all go through. And if you've had an experience, there's 100% chance that somebody else has had that exact same experience. So those groups are really handy. If you're feeling a little bit down, hey, I'm after being glutened, I'm feeling like this, the amount of support that you get on those pages is just, it's so nice, like, to be surrounded by people who get it.
Yeah. Now, Debbie, I've got a nice question here, which I think is an appropriate time to ask it. I don't know who the question's coming from, but wondering if you've any tips for a new celiac who spends a lot of time focusing on their diet. I totally understand this. I have an awful habit of constantly worrying and thinking about my next meal, which is such a burden. You know, so kind of exactly what you're saying. It's a difficult one.
Yeah. Now, well, what I was saying was actually the next point I was going to make. Back to basics.
Yeah, there you go.
If you've been told to follow a gluten-free diet, don't feel under the pressure that you need to go to those gluten-free aisles, the gluten-free section in the shopping centre. First of all, stuff can be expensive. Second of all, they can be quite processed foods. And if you're trying to maybe heal your gut, you know, maybe you want to be kind of putting like stuff that isn't just loads of like biscuits and stuff like that into your stomach. But I would say back to basics. So you have things like potatoes that are plain, your plain meats that aren't marinated, your vegetables, your fruits, your eggs, your milk. All these things are naturally gluten-free, and you've probably been eating quite a lot of gluten-free products already. So I would say back to basics. And
I often feel sorry for the celiac who's just been diagnosed but doesn't actually know how to cook. I think that's really quite difficult, isn't it? It's
yeah. And I think as well, that again brings me back to groups, because I am the worst cook. I'm absolutely not. I burn everything. Like anything I try to make is usually a disaster, and I'll stand up and say that, like, don't come to my page if you're looking for like a cooking demo. It's not going to happen. You're not going to see it. But what I will say is, the more that I got interested in the gluten-free diet, the more I did have to learn about food, and the more I kind of was learning about food and, you know, eating new foods, the more I kind of started cooking. And whether that be like the simplest thing, like you go onto a page, you'll see 10-minute recipe for a chickpea curry. And I mean, it breaks it down for you. Like, it's step by step, like things like that. But things like, I mean, like potatoes, salads, plain meats, you can just be throwing things in an oven. You don't have to be chopping and prepping loads of things either, you know. But I would say to anybody that's new to it, like, try and see it as, try look at the bright side as much as possible. This is you starting your road to healing and recovery, and you're going to feel so much better. And just know that you don't need to learn absolutely everything all at once, that you're going to learn as you go too, and just don't be hard on yourself. And just back to basics is just a great one. So the likes of those, you know, potatoes, vegetables, plain meats, join the society. It gives you tips about that stuff as well. But yeah, no, just keep take it day by day as well, I'd say.
Good advice, Debbie.
And then this is, I think, is an important one for anybody that's just started a gluten-free diet. You're learning about this, but you also are dealing with, it's an invisible disease as well. You can't, you know, you don't have a cast on your arm and someone's going, oh my God, what's wrong? Like, what happened? So it is an invisible disease and you're learning about it. But the thing about you is, you maybe feel the benefits of going on to a gluten-free diet. You feel the symptoms when you get gluten. Family and friends don't have that. They can't feel those feelings for you. So they need to learn from you as well. So I would kind of recommend maybe typing up a letter, writing out a letter, bullet points, you know, this is what happens to me when gluten happens, cross-contamination, a brief little summary about it, write it down, actually give them something and say, this is it explained, and this is how it makes me feel if this happens. And this is how great I feel when this happens, because they're learning too, and they have no idea. Like, you might be learning, but they're like really going to be learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd write a letter. I'd, you know, send an email, whatever it is, and give them something physical that they can have and they can look at and they can learn from that. Revenue. This has probably been covered a few times, but I have to say, I only started doing it in the last few years. I just never really thought about it. Like, it was just not something that kind of, I was like, ah, sure, it's only a couple of euro or whatever. But I probably claim back, I'd say maybe about 400 quid every January. And just after Christmas, 400 euro going into your bank account is quite nice. So I would just say that if you're on a gluten-free diet for a medical reason at all, then you're entitled to 20% tax back on products. Now, not products that are naturally gluten-free, that doesn't count, but products like, you know, like biscuits, things like that, pastas, cereals, you can get 20% back. So keep your receipts. And a tip that I just got off somebody recently was, what she does is she gets her receipts, just say for the month of January, and she like pencils everything out, and then she totals up the amount of those receipts, does the same for every month, and then has them all done. So you're not emptying out a big box at the end of December or start of January with like hundreds of receipts falling out. So you're kind of keeping on top of it. There is an app on the Revenue, it's a Revenue app that you can download to your phone, and there's also a receipts tracker within that app. So you can be taking photographs of the receipts and you can be uploading it to your account, and you can do it that way too. I'm old school. I just stick to the like old receipts and keeping them and going through them. But yeah, you can get 20% back, and that includes also your prescriptions, your medication from your doctor, dentist visits. So it can really add up, especially if you're on any sort of prescription, monthly prescriptions, it can all add up. So I would absolutely recommend doing that from the get-go. And just remember that you need to hang on to your receipts for 7 years, just in case Revenue do want to review. But yeah, like, that's a biggie. I think people should do that.
Oh, 400 euros, that's a lot of money, Debbie.
You can be and you wouldn't see it as you're spending it, you know. No, but it's and the truth is, though, there is gluten-free products and they are pretty expensive. So, do you know, and especially if there's more than one celiac in your house as well, you'll be.
just to say, the tax back is only on products that are specially formulated to be gluten-free. So it's not naturally gluten-free. So it's not meat, fish, eggs, vegetables. It would be things like gluten-free oat cakes or gluten-free cereal or gluten-free bread. So I think I just want to mention that.
Yeah, and another thing that I noticed is, just say on your receipt, the receipt might not say GF or gluten-free on the line on the receipt, but don't worry about that at all. It's a gluten-free product, so don't worry about it, just underline it. But I would recommend that you maybe do it like monthly or weekly, because you might forget and you might go, oh, that's not a gluten-free product, and you might leave it out. So yeah, just try and stay on top of it, like, because it's worth it at the end. The gluten-free food list from the Celiac Society. This is my Bible. It has changed over the years, big time, but this is my Bible. This is available, so you can have the physical book and you can have the online version as well. So if you become a member of the Celiac Society of Ireland, they send you this lovely book in the post, and you can also access it online. And what it does is it gives you peace of mind. It certifies the products that are inside it. So the producers or the supermarkets are basically signing a declaration to say, yes, our foods are safe, they're free from cross-contamination, you know, like, there's no concern, there's no worries with these products. And then you can bring it on your food shop. So I'm still like the receipts, I'm still in like olden times where I'm like bringing this book with me everywhere. Like, but I do, like, if you're prepping for your weekly food shop or anything like that, or you're heading out to the shops, bring it with you, because you can just check something. But like that, you can check it on your phone as well if you have a membership. Like, so it's brilliant. Meal planning. If you want to plan for the week, there's an index at the back of this book, and this is what I love the most. Just say you're like, I'm going to make a bolognese on Friday, I'm going to do a curry on Saturday. You can just go to the index and look, past it, see all the pages that are listed for pasta, pick it out. Same with sauces, same with like burgers or anything. Like, you go to the index and it has every product that you could think of, and you can find out the brand, you can find out a supermarket it's in. It's the absolute go-to that everybody needs. And I just wanted to give one example. Someone messaged me there the other day, and they said if I could cover what they're going to do at Christmas time, because they moved back home, they're the only celiac, and they're a little bit concerned about Christmas dinner. First thing I would say is, if you can take charge, do, and make the whole dinner gluten-free. The amount of times I've been for dinner with people, I've had them over, I've been cooking for them, they say, so what's gluten-free there? Like, what's different that you're having? And I'm saying, nothing, like, everything's gluten-free. You're eating gluten-free. If you're preparing the dinner, make the whole thing gluten-free. Go to the butchers, get your meats. I just wanted to give an example. In the book itself, just say you want to go to gravy, page 200, list of gravies. Stock cubes, page 134. Same with spices, dry seasoning mixes. You can plan your whole Christmas dinner out in advance, have all the ingredients there, and make the whole thing gluten-free. If that's not possible for you, I would recommend that if you're using a shared oven, again, like the press, use the top shelf in the oven to, you know, limit the risk of cross-contamination. And also another good thing that people I've noticed started using is getting yourself an air fryer, where you don't have to mix your stuff even in the oven. You can use the air fryer instead. And that just the roast potatoes and stuffing. So sometimes this is obviously like for Ireland, but you can get products that come in from other countries and they are certified. You see the cross grain symbol on them and they're just from another country. So you can get in super value Jones, you can get gluten-free frozen roast potatoes, you can get stuffing, you can do that whole dinner gluten-free, and that's what I'd recommend. People won't notice the difference at all.
Now, Debbie, do you want to know the good news on the food list?
Go.
We hopefully, Celiac Society, are launching a food list app March, April of 2021. So we are so excited.
Oh my God.
We know our members have been looking for this, and we have been, you know, it's something that's been on the agenda for such a long time, but it's happening.
Oh, so, that is absolutely brilliant. I'm delighted. I'm absolutely delighted.
Not only you'll have, you know, obviously for some people who are not technologically minded, they might still like their printed book. But I think a lot of us now are kind of using our phones a lot more and becoming a lot more tech savvy. So that is the plan. So
Brilliant.
super exciting.
Absolutely brilliant. That will be so handy for if you're not maybe planning on going to the shop, but you're running last minute. Got your phone, you got your app. Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. I know people have been talking about it for years now, so that's great news.
So
brilliant. Oh my God, I'm delighted. That'll be so handy for people now.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to briefly go over this section because I know it's not something that we're doing at the moment. So, I just said I'll just briefly go over it.
Normal life will resume one day, Debbie, soon.
Yes, please. But all I would say is, especially in regards to eating out, research beforehand, go on the likes of the different groups, ask questions, go on to TripAdvisor, have a look at the restaurant. I would always contact the restaurant beforehand, and sometimes somebody else can be organising a meal and you do get that level of anxiety that goes with that. You're putting your trust into somebody else. Contact the restaurant beforehand, ask, can you speak to a chef? A lot of the time a chef will come onto the phone or they'll give you a call back, or just the manager there can know their stuff. On arrival, just because you've double checked, triple checked, on arrival, you say it again. You pull somebody to the side and you say, hey, look, I need to follow a gluten-free diet. It's really important for my health. I'll be very unwell if this or this happens. And then again, double check, triple check. There's sometimes the anxiety of you've been speaking to someone in a restaurant, they give you down your food, then they go off, and then someone different comes with your mains, and you're saying, does that person know? Is that the right meal? Ask again. There's absolutely no harm. I think this thing of trying to make people feel silly or like that they're not being serious or they're faking it, like that needs to just stop. And the more we just come together, ask these questions, I think the better kind of awareness will raise for it. And as I know you guys say it all the time, but if you're in doubt, leave it out. I have gotten up from a table in a restaurant after speaking to somebody, gone, I just don't feel right about this, I'm going to leave it, and I've gone elsewhere. Things like, I'm sure people know exactly what I'm talking about. You go in, you look at the menu, you see tons of GF symbols, chips, GF, and you're like, great, this is brilliant. Hey, just wondering, are they, made in a separate fryer? No. These type of things you need to be sure of. So if you go in and that's the case, you go up and you leave. Like, you'll find somewhere that caters much better. Another thing for going abroad, just the language barrier in terms of going abroad can cause a lot of anxiety. So I know the Celiac Society, I remember going in as a kid and getting my little cards, going to Spain as a kid and buying these cards. So you can get different ways of getting these translations. Another one, you can get different apps on your phone as well. There's one I use, it's called GF Card, and it's got like 250 different languages, and it explains celiac disease, it explains cross-contamination. So you're going to Portugal, you just show the app on the phone, and it saved me so many times. There's none of this like, oh, like gluten-free, trying to explain it. So it's really handy. And then again, social media pages, if I'm going anywhere, like I said, like London or anything, I'll type in gluten-free London. I'll get a list of people that live there that are celiac. I'll message everybody.
Wow.
Hiya, I'm heading. Can you give me tips?
Now, Debbie, a couple of questions coming in. What are your main issues when eating out as a celiac? And then also from Lindsay, do you have a favourite restaurant that does gluten-free well?
Oh, I have a few. So one of the main things, like for example, is the chips on the menu. When they say GF, that can be a real problem for me. And sometimes I do worry about people that maybe are new to this and they see GF, they think, brilliant, this is safe, like I'm good. It's not always the case, and that's quite worrying. But then sometimes you might be, get a question like, oh, how sensitive are you?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, like I have celiac disease, I can't have gluten. There's no level of sensitivity for me, like I just can't have it. But yeah, things like just menus, I feel being mislabeled is an issue for me. And then just, I think lack of training in restaurants as well. And it's not always that people are just, they don't care that are working, they've not received the proper training. They might not be aware of these things. So just sometimes the lack of knowledge can be frustrating when you go out. And then in terms of favorite restaurants, God, I could only stand over really places that, you know, I've been to quite a lot. So in Dublin, Mac Chinese restaurant in Ranelagh, he has a full celiac menu. Yeah, that's like probably my number one. Sorry?
I'm just saying that sounds great.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Like you need to go. It's just an absolute treat. Like you can get like noodles, you can get like sweet and sour chicken, like it's a proper good spot. But just even having a separate celiac menu is just
And for anybody loving pizzas, we know Manifesto again in Rathmines, fantastic. He makes his own gluten-free pizzas.
Yeah,
Delicious.
and I think there's just the likes of Manifesto, like work with yourselves as well.
Yeah,
you know, and they say, hey, like we want to work with you, we want to provide for celiac. So even just having that extra bit of reassurance, I think is
and
really
then the Baytree in Portlaoise and Louth as well, they do gluten-free.
Haven't been yet. I've been, it's on the list. I'm dying to go.
I know. But if you access the website again, there's I know it was very much your own personal favorite, but there is sort of certified gluten-free restaurants there on our website.
I was only actually looking at those today. There's a load of restaurants up there. It's another place actually that's listed on it is the Abbey Tavern in Hout.
Yes, yeah,
brilliant. Really, the staff are great there. They really know their stuff. But yeah, they're probably some of my favorites, I'd say.
Good.
But just another thing, just if you are going abroad, this is my main things I pack in a bag. Toasty bags, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but normal gluten eaters would use them for making cheese toasties. So they're kind of like sleeves really, and you pop the bread inside them. But they're actually really handy if you're going to just say an apartment abroad. Most of the time the place is spotless, the toaster is spotless. So you can use a toasty bag, put your gluten-free bread inside the toasty bag and toast your bread. It's like €2 for a packet of them. I wouldn't recommend using them in a toaster where it's not very clean or there's loads of crumbs, because I think that's a bit risky. But for the likes of, you know, I remember thinking when I was younger, like, I feel like I'll bring a toaster away with me, you know, but like these little things can make a difference. I'd always bring bread, the likes of, you know, your beef-free bread and your shower bread. They have a good expiry date on them, so they're really good ones to bring away with you. Little cereals, again, you can get them in Tesco's and stuff, little mini packets. Snacks, and I always bring a sauce of some sort, so a little bottle of sauce. So if you're struggling when you're abroad, sometimes you might find that you end up getting just really plain food because you're like, no sauce, no dressing. Have a little thing of sauce with you. And I don't think it's anything new for any celiac or people that follow a gluten-free diet to have a bag full of food anywhere they go. So it won't be anything new. But yeah, that's basically me. I did want to say about as well, pre-COVID, there's meetups that I do, and there's also meetups all over the country, ran through the Celiac Society of Ireland, and I just really encourage anybody to go along. You make friends. There's people I've met and I'm like, they're friends. There's people I've met online, I've not seen them in person, they're friends. But yeah, the meetups, you know, and it doesn't have to be all the time just sitting discussing all things gluten-free. You can just be talking about life in general. Like one of the days we done a Greystones to Bray walk, had a picnic. We went to an arcade, we had a Christmas themed event. There's so many different activities that I'd really encourage people to get involved in, and just to become part of that community is it's amazing.
That's brilliant. Now we have a couple of questions, Debbie. We've just got 5 minutes to go, and I've also got to announce the winners of our prizes today. But Rory is asking, how important is it to understand the labelling, or what are the different labels, such as gluten-free or does not contain gluten?
Yeah. So this, I kind of get quite annoyed at this. So I would always try and go for a food that's certified by the society. It has the cross grain symbol on it. But anything that's gluten-free, it is a legislation within Europe that if it says gluten-free, it needs to be gluten-free. But one of the problems I would have would be when you might see produced in a factory that handles gluten.
Yeah.
That's not a legislative rule. So someone might see that and go, okay, so then if that's not said on the packaging and there doesn't seem to be any gluten-free containing ingredients, then that must mean it's safe. It's not. Like a company does not have to state that there's a risk of cross-contamination, that gluten is held on their premises. They just need to state whether there's gluten in their item or not in their item. So I just always look out for a gluten-free symbol. The cross-grain symbol is your go-to symbol that you want to see on a product.
And also this may contain, which a lot of brands are using as well. Again, that's not suitable. This may contain statement. It's kind of again, not safe.
No.
What else?
If in doubt, leave it out. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, where else? Don't bring bread. I'm going to announce. You can't see the questions there, Debbie. Meetups designed for teens. Are there any meetups designed for teens with celiac disease?
I'm not sure I really understand.
So for younger people.
Oh, teens, sorry. Yeah, there's loads of different groups. So actually one of the meetups, like my meetups anyway, there's no, like, anyone's invited. One of the events we had two young girls with us with their mom. They came along and it was absolutely brilliant. So you know, they're open for everybody. So any of the ones ran through the Celiac Society, they're open for everybody.
Absolutely.
So, there's no thing. So if anyone wants to come to my meetups, like, it doesn't matter what age you are, come along, please.
More than welcome.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm just going to announce the winners, Debbie, because we're coming. You've done an amazing job. But Susie Foreman has won the Jane Russell hamper. Rory Nolan has won membership with the Celiac Society for a year. Michael White has won a beef-free hamper. Catherine Heaney has won the green saffron hamper, and Brenda Broderick has won the Promise Gluten-Free hamper. So thank you to all of the brands for supporting our prizes throughout the week. Without their help and support, and obviously Super Value as well, it just makes things so much easier. And Debbie, you've taken a half day off work today. We cannot thank you enough. Your tips have been fantastic. They've been hands-on and practical. And I hope we've answered as many of the questions as we can. And obviously this will all be live. This will all be uploaded for people to view afterwards. And I'm assuming as well, people can contact you through Celiac Dublin as well if they've any questions.
They are at Celiac Dublin, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you want to drop me an email, if there's any questions you have, please just contact me and I'll do my best to answer. But Andrea, and to the Celiac Society of Ireland, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so grateful. I really enjoyed it.
A pleasure to have, and thank you all, everybody, for joining us. And we've got the Kids Academy coming up with McCambridge's at 4 o'clock. So any young members or parents of young members, come along, and you have the links to join us at 4 for that. And thanks a million, Debbie. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.